Welcome to the HR Chat podcast, bringing the best of the HR, talent, and leadership communities to you. For more episodes and the latest articles covering what's new in the world of work, visit hrgazette.com, subscribe and follow us on social media.
Welcome to another episode of the HR Chat Show. I'm your host today, Bill Banham, and my amazing, illustrious, super famous, awesome, wonderful guest this time is J.T. O'Donnell, CEO over at Work It Daily, an online platform dedicated to helping people solve their biggest career problems. J.T. has more than 15 years of experience in HR, recruiting, and career coaching, and she loves helping people overcome career and job search challenges to find professional happiness on their own terms. And this is a bit of a special episode, not just because JT is so super awesome and wonderful, but also because as part of my homework, listeners, there's just so much useful information that JT is sharing that I came across, that instead of the usual format of around about 10 questions with a bit of back and forth, it's going to be a bit more rapid fire today. And I've got so many things that I want to throw at JT to try and solve the ills of the world of work. So let's start with the usual first question, though. JT, it's my absolute pleasure to have you here today. Why don't you start by introducing yourself to our listeners?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure you have the right person with that introduction. I have to be honest. It's very kind of you, but I guess the best way to describe me is I was a staffing and recruiting industry executive who left the corporate world 20 years ago because I saw an unmet need. And that was, we were only getting paid on the people we placed. And there were hundreds and thousands of people that with a little coaching could have been much more marketable and therefore could have had much happier careers. So that's what led me to leave and decide to become a career coach, and fast forward 20 years. And that's really been the mission, to find a way to get career coaching in the hands of the people that actually need it the most. And to do that, you have to drop the geographic, the physical boundaries to getting it, as well as the economic boundaries. So for me, it was about finding a way to leverage technology and building an online platform where people could come get smart answers, not get misinformation from their parents, Uncle Jimmy, their friends, but get real smart, sound advice from trained experts so that they could make smarter career decisions and be happier in life. And that's been the journey. And, I wish I could say my job is done, but it's not. But I'm just probably going to keep doing this until I'm done working, because it's been so fulfilling over these years to give people the new rules and help them understand the things that school didn't teach them about job search and career growth. And that's it. That's me. I'm a career nerd, I guess. That's what we'll call me.
So JT, here comes the first of my many questions that I've got for you today. And therefore, I'm going to challenge you from time to time to answer in 60 seconds or less. And let's do that right from the top, shall we? So in 60 seconds or less, JT, what's the number one best bit of career advice that you've been given, and why?
The best advice I ever got actually was from my father, which was, how successful you'll be depends on how much blank, I won't say what he said, you can put up with. And, when I first heard that, I thought he meant, just endure it. The more you could endure. And what I came to learn over time was he was really telling me to reframe my perspective and realize that a lot of that stuff that I was creating in my head that was such drama and problematic wasn't. And that if I could have the clearer perspective and really realize there were very few things that I should be worked up about or stressed out about, I could perform better and I could achieve more. And he couldn't have been more right as I redirected my thoughts around that. And especially as I ended up getting trained in neurolinguistic programming, I learned how much control I had over my career situation if I realized that I could put up with so much, because it really wasn't anything to put up with. I was overreacting in a sense. And I think that's hard for people to hear initially in their careers because they're very defensive. But if you really start to think about it and say, will you care about that in 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 years? And you condition yourself to think that way, all of a sudden things just don't bother you and you get so much more done and you're so much happier in your career. So for that and for many other pieces of advice he gave me, I'll be forever grateful to my dad.
I love that. That's a wonderful story. Thank you for sharing that. Something else you recently shared was a post on Work It Daily called Want to Move Up the Ladder at Work, focus on the 3 C's of career growth. I wonder now if you can take a little bit of time, as much as you want, to tell us about the 3 C's and why they matter.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you for that. And thank you for mentioning Work It Daily. I appreciate it. So the 3 C's are something that we've learned and Harvard's done studies on what it takes to be successful. And being successful isn't about going it alone. It's about getting the support that you need in order to make that transformation happen. So for us, we talk about the 3 C's in terms of courses, coaching, and community. So first of all, courses, content, whatever you want to call it, you need new information, new perspective at all times. You're not going to have breakthroughs. You're not going to get to that next level if you aren't learning. And so always having some kind of coursework or something that you're studying is immensely valuable. And you don't have to put pressure on yourself and give yourself a hard deadline. But if you realize that you should always be devoting some time towards that, then you're guaranteeing that you're moving it forward. And if you think about the company name Work It Daily, it's because of that. If you were to just work a little bit every day, or at least consistency on learning, you will grow in your career. Coaching, huge. You need mentors. You need people who can help you remove roadblocks, who can see things in yourself that you can't see. And you need to be coachable. You need to be open to that and realize no one is expecting you to be perfect, and that you are always evolving and learning and growing. So that's a very, very key point. But then the third is community, because if you're all alone and you're isolated, it's easy to sit and think that your problems are unique to you and only you, and therefore there are no solutions and you can't move forward in your career. And I will tell you, one of the fastest ways to realize that your own career situation is not so bad and that there are ways for you to get around it is to surround yourself with like-minded people who have been there, done that, or people who are going through the same thing as you. And, just think about anything that you've done successfully in your life, and you will realize that you've used the 3 C's in some way, shape, or form in order to get there. And I will tell you this, if you're sitting here listening today and saying, no, JT, I'm a lone wolf, it's all about being the best and I'm focused on being the best, the demise of your career will come faster than you think. Because there's plenty of studies, and there's a book that I recommend all the time called Tribal Leadership that shows that individuals like that start out strong. Right? They accelerate, they buzz past people early on, but they're lone wolves, and eventually they build a culture around them where they have to be the best. And that's when you stop growing. And that's where you stop having the relationships that can take your career to the next level, where you stop getting other perspectives, where people stop coaching you, where people stop inviting you to learn, and you become very protective of your career. And before you know it, you're all alone, and there's no one to help you when you have a setback, and you will have a setback. So really important that if you want to move forward in your career, the 3 C's, they play a huge role, and they're not hard. That's the best part. It's not rocket science or brain surgery, but you do need to have them.
We'll be right back to this conversation after this very brief message from today's sponsoring partner.
The days of matching web keyword searches with resumes and job descriptions is over. It's all about cultural fit. WorkZinga empowers job seekers looking for jobs and employers looking for new hires to have thoughtful and insightful conversations, making the recruiting process more successful for both sides. Learn more at workzinga.com.
Okay, wonderful. And by the way, as someone who does work remotely, and I work alone quite a lot of the time, it's just nice to hear from you in that previous answer there that it's important to connect with others and to empathize and to understand that none of us are actually alone, and we are going through similar things, and it's okay to share. It's important to share. So thank you for that. Okay, big question for you now. In your opinion, from what you see, from what you read, the conversations that you have, why are so many employees looking for new jobs at the moment? Is it simply the fact that the market is buoyant if you're an applicant, if you're a candidate, and you can probably command higher salaries, so why not? Is it the result of some sort of existential crisis that many of us have gone through over the last couple of years during the pandemic, and a reassessment of what's important to us? Is it a bit of both? Are there other factors? What's your take?
Oh, there's so many factors on this one. So first of all, I'd argue we've hit the great tipping point, and a workplace evolution is in the works. No one's ever going to go back, even if we have a market correction or a recession. People still look at work very differently now. And we know that because 41 million people quit their jobs in the US in 2021. So that's something that's big right now. People are going through that crisis of purpose, that thought of what does work really mean to me? My health is more important as it should be. I want to do work that aligns with my life and where I'm at today. And nobody has taken the time to think about that until now. We have been on autopilot as a society. We've been told, get out of school, get a job, climb the ladder, work, 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 not giving a lot of thought to it. And we've been heavily focused on what's called extrinsic motivation, so external rewards, and have lost the intrinsic motivation to do work, which is doing it for the sake of doing it. And so this is a big awakening is going on right now as people start to figure out what kind of work would make me feel fulfilled and give me a paycheck to cover my needs, and what do I really need. There's just an immense amount of self-discovery going on right now, which is tip the apple cart. So that all is going on for sure. You also have a situation where people have been surviving in the jobs that they've been in for the last 2 years. And basically a lot of pent up trauma and stress and exhaustion is coming out. And I think the change is, I can't do this anymore. I'm bored. I'm stressed. The last 2 years have been hard. I just want something new. So you see a lot of people saying it's got to be better. They always say the grass isn't greener, but I'm going to go see if it is. And I think you're going to continue to see a lot of churn as people just want to go somewhere new and have new experiences and new coworkers because they've been so trapped, physically and mentally trapped. So we've got that going on for sure. And then, I think the third thing is that some people really have created this situation where they don't want to go back into work. They want this protective cocoon of being at home, and they actually think they're happier. And I say think, and I want to talk about that. I don't disagree that some people have created great lives for themselves working remotely and have created a better life-work balance. But I think that this, for some, will be a trend. And then after a while, people will realize that they need to go back into a space, that this will get boring too. The novelty of working from home all the time will get boring too. As someone who did it early on when she started her company, when I started my company, then we went into an office, then we came back and worked remotely in the pandemic. I myself am taking co-working space starting next month because I'm done with the being home piece. I can't turn it off. I can't walk away from it. And, that's probably intensified for me as a CEO, but I think that for others over time, they will realize as well that some sort of hybrid model or ability to go someplace else will be an option that they will desire. But for now, there's a lot of people that are absolutely convinced they'll never, ever want to go back to work again in an office. And I think that's contributing to it as well. So you've got all that going on. You've got, also people realizing it's a hot job market and thinking I can make more money, and I haven't been making more money for a long time, and being offered crazy pay increases. And I say crazy, not that they don't deserve it, but it tends to be a big jump, and companies are historically throwing money at their hiring problem. And my fear there is that, and I've seen it before, I've been around the block with this several times, when the market corrects, it's not an if, it's a when. We see last person in, first person out, and we see the most expensive people get chopped. So I caution people, and I'm not trying to be the downer, I'm just trying to be the realist, in the sense that if you're going to leave a job, make sure you are very valuable to that organization in their good times and their bad times, so that you don't find yourself on the receiving end of a pink slip and now, struggling to go back and maybe not get hired by your former employer or try to find work. I just think moving right now should be intentional and careful, even though I know a lot of people are just so stressed. They're making that knee-jerk reaction and saying, I don't care, I'll deal with it later. I understand the feeling. I've coached so many people like that. But if you can find a way to take a breath here and start to really figure out what's going on for you career-wise and make an informed decision, it will be a lot better outcome.
Imagine someone does make the jump. And by the way, some of the numbers are crazy. Willis Towers Watson's 2022 Global Benefits Audit Survey, for example, said that 44% of employees are also job seekers, in inverted commas. Those numbers are huge. But so if someone does decide to make the jump, they want to do something a bit different. What are the challenges there for the candidate? And what I mean by that is, we're talking maybe around skill-based hiring here. So if someone wants to go from one department to another, say, but they don't on their resume that it's not a clear linear progression for them, that they're going into a different area, but they do have transferable skills, and they do have the ability to learn new skills and whatnot. What are the challenges for folk, and what are the bits of advice that you'd offer them in that situation?
Yeah, I love this question. So I've never actually driven on the German Autobahn, but I envision going 100 miles an hour and realizing that the last thing you would do to go from one lane to the next would be to just swerve into the lane. You would absolutely signal, right? You'd throw the signal on, make sure the people saw that you were moving lanes because you're going really fast and you don't want to crash. And I tell people that when you want to make a career change, signaling is equally important because a lot of times people say, well, look, I know my transferable skills will work in this job. So I'm just going to start applying and I'll get a job in this field. And then when they get zero responses and rejected over and over again, they get defeated and they think, well, gosh, I can never change careers now. I'm trapped. And then this spiral starts. And I see this so many times. Is if you're someone out there that wants to make a career change, let me first say you can make a career change. You absolutely can. But we want to take some smart steps here. We want to start with signaling. So one, you're going to, figure out those transferable skill sets and start to have conversations with people in the industry or skill set, new type of job that you want. And those are informational interviews. You want to learn from them and find out, what are the skills most needed on their job? Do they see how your skills could transfer? How would they explain how your skills transfer to a potential employer? You need to learn the verbiage and at the same time get people on board with your idea. They're going to punch holes in it and they're going to offer additional insights that you didn't even think of. When I coach people to do this, they usually come back to me and say, oh my gosh, they pointed out 5 things on my resume that I never would have thought even mattered to a potential employer, that actually would be a huge plus that I can now mention. So this is what I mean about doing your due diligence and preparing that's signaling to the industry that, hey, I want to make this move and I need to figure out how to connect the dots for you so that you can see me as a potential candidate. So that's step 1. Step 2 is realize you are not a job seeker, you are a job shopper. I hate the term job seeker because it implies we're on this, random journey, this quest, and we don't know where we're going and we don't know how we're going to find it. And, it's a slim to none chance that we're going to find it, seeker. You're a job shopper. This is intentional. And job shoppers know what brands they want to buy or they want to work with. And so you want to create a list of 10 to 20 companies that hire for that skill set that you're looking to leverage and figure out why you love them. What is it about their brand that would get you up every day? That goes back to my earlier comment about intrinsic motivation. What do you love about them? And it's not that you heard they're a great place to work. It's that you admire their product, their service, the customers they serve, their approach, their methodology, because somewhere along the line, you had to learn that. That's actually a feeling or an emotion. That's a connection to their brand. And somewhere along the line in your life, you learned that what they do is better, faster, cheaper, smarter, special to you. And that's that intrinsic connection. And that is the story that needs to come out when you talk to them. Because now you have a reason to reach out to people that work there and say, hey, can we connect? I have a story I want to share with you about why I'm a fan of your company. And you share that story. Maybe their drugs saved your grandmother's life, or maybe you've been eating their peanut butter since you were 3. Whatever the story is, that you need to bring to light and share and say, for that reason, I'm really interested in your company and, using my skill sets in this capacity. The reason I say that is that all of us on here know that, we don't just hire based on experience. In fact, I saw one study come across my desk a couple of months ago that said right now, only 39% of the hires have the exact experience an employer is looking for. We hire on aptitude and personality. We hire to make sure that somebody can do it the way we want to, right? Aptitude and personality mean they'll get along in the office, right? They've got the communication skills to get along. So when you can tell a story about why you feel connected to the company, you're literally delivering on that personality and aptitude portion that they need in order to want to hire you, because they can teach you the rest. And if you're coming to them, you technically have no bad habits, especially if you're changing careers. So this is what I mean about job shopping and being intentional. And I can't tell you how many people we've done this with, and they get hired and they say, I never dreamed I'd work at this company. But this is what it takes, because those companies do want to hire you. They want to hire people that have great reasons to get up every day and go do the work. And that's the story that you tell. So that's the advice we follow. There's a few other aspects of, we call it proactive job search, that you do in order to make that happen. And we teach it to you at Work It Daily, shameless plug there. But, it really does work, and it's a more joyful experience. You feel more in control of your career, and that's what we're trying to make you do, feel in control, empowered. But it's just more fun. It's a better way to find a job and get happier in your career.
Wonderful. And by the way, we love a shameless plug on this
Thank
show,
you.
JT. So go nuts. Go. Okay, so let's just take a step back for a minute and focus on projecting one's personal brand so that they get noticed. Because one thing that you do talk a lot about is making recruiters come to you, and you've touched upon that already in this interview. But in terms of creating that personal brand, a brand that's interesting and compelling and says the right things and it's in the right places, importantly as well. What are your tips there so that folks can create that brand that'll lead to more job offers from recruiters and a more successful, well, an overall more successful career journey, I guess?
Yeah, and I love that you asked this question. Thank you for asking it, because I do talk a lot about branding and presence online and how important it is. And the reason I say that is this, that, if we had a company, a new business starts up in your town and they do no advertising, there's no sign outside. You just see the lights on. And 3 months later, they're closed. And somebody says, "Oh, isn't it a shame they closed?" We'd all say, "Well, no, they did no marketing. Nobody knew who they were, what they did. They didn't come out to the community. They didn't give us a reason to come to them." That's the same with recruiters. So recruiters can find you, but you've got to be in the right places and give them the right information. So for starters, LinkedIn. Having a LinkedIn profile that is properly filled out is vital. And, there's a Goldilocks principle, too much information on LinkedIn works against you, too little information works against you. You need to have just the right amount of information to be found. So there is a piece there to learn and do. But I will tell you, the rewards, the time you spend in learning how to fill out LinkedIn properly, you will love it when recruiters are messaging you saying, "I think we got a job you're a fit for." I mean, who wouldn't want that? Instead of us knocking on their doors, they're knocking on ours. Now, with that in mind, you talked about creating a personal brand. And I've actually recently tried to tell people, let's stop thinking about creating, because that's a word I've used in the past where, it's normal. We'll create a brand. Because I think what's happened is people feel inauthentic when I say that. They think, okay, well, I'm making something up about myself in order to attract attention. So what I would like to say is that your brand already exists, because it actually does. All we're looking to do is reveal it. We just want to reveal who you are, what you believe in, what you know. We want to, the fancy term is document your gravitas, which simply means, show people what you know. And that's not bragging, and that's not being narcissistic. If done correctly, what you can do is serve your audience, share knowledge and information and resources with those that follow you in order to help them. And if you think about it that way, if you think about that, because I always tell people your network is your net worth these days. If you're serving your network, they will serve you. And so you want to create a LinkedIn profile that makes it easy for people to know what you do for work. But then more importantly, you want to start contributing on LinkedIn and sharing information, sharing articles and videos and other things that you've seen that make sense to you and your industry and, based on your skill level, and share why, this is why this thing is great. And this is why I don't agree with this. And not only does that help those that see it, but when they see it and they go, "Oh yeah, I agree with that." Or, "Oh wow, that's a really great video." They go, "Well, who gave me that? Who introduced me to that?" And it's you. And if you do that enough times, you now become associated with being smart and being knowledgeable in your skill set and being helpful. And, it's not hard. And, we teach a class, Make Recruiters Come to You. And a big part of it is teaching people how to curate content. So not create, curate, just like a curator in a museum, finding things that will be of value and putting them in there and adding your 2 cents. And when you do this consistently, when you work it daily, like we talk about, amazing thing happens. First of all, the LinkedIn algorithm loves you. So it shows you to more people. Over time, at first you'll feel like crickets, nobody's responding, but over time, suddenly people will respond and comment and like and share. And then the magic happens. Out of the blue, people are messaging you for advice. People are saying, "Hey, we're looking for this kind of a person at our company. Do you know it, based on your experience and everything you share, would you be able to help?" And this is when you stop knocking on doors because people are knocking on yours. And I know that, folks, because this is literally how I did it. I tell people all the time, I live in New Hampshire. For the longest time, I didn't even admit to that because people thought I lived on a farm, which at one point I did. I lived in a farmhouse. But I said, well, how am I going to have this satisfying career and be the change in the world that I want to be? And this was the answer. Just going out and sharing as much knowledge as I could online in a consistent manner And this is how like people come to me, like the wonderful opportunity, Bill, you're giving me today. You messaged me and, hopefully it was because you saw the content. And that to me it's a win-win. I don't feel like I'm soliciting anybody. I'm helping others. And in return, they're coming to me and asking me for help, which lets me do my job, So it's a win-win all around. It can be done for any skill set at any level. You just need to learn how to do it.
Well, I'm super glad that I did reach out to you and we did make this happen today because I am loving this conversation. I'm having a lot of fun. Unfortunately, we've only got a few more minutes left. I could keep going all day with you on these topics, but our show is a certain length. So let's challenge you again, shall we? Because I do want to get through a couple more questions with you. And by the way, curate content, not create. That's beautiful. Document your gravitas. Love it. Okay, in 90 seconds or less, JT, maybe you can share some tips to ensure that your past social media posts don't come back and frankly bite you on the butt. E.g., maybe you want to share, it's a good idea to remove any embarrassing photos on your Facebook, or perhaps set your profile so that only friends can see what you're getting up to there. But also, as part of that answer, am I missing the point? Should you keep those things? Because if you remove those, are you being less authentic?
I think there was a phase where we were removing stuff because we really were judging people based on what we saw. I think a lot of that has died down. It's interesting. An organization that studies this sent me some info about a year or two ago that said people care a lot less about pictures of you drinking. They actually have way more of an issue of you smoking illegal substances. So I was surprised to hear that was considered worse. So I think you do want to be careful to some degree. If you have a type of job where you can be drug tested, it may not be great to have that listed. But aside from that, I think we're over that for the most part. We're not sitting there scrounging through somebody's feed. Now, if that was the only thing in the feed was stuff that gave the impression that you don't want to work and maybe your mind isn't always in the best state for work, that could be a problem. But I just don't see that most of the time. So I don't tend to tell people they have to go back and scrub anything. I do tell people to be really careful about politics and religion. And the reason for that is that, some companies are just really against it. They don't want you to bring your politics or your religion to the office. And ironically, some companies, they're very vocal about which way they swing in those areas. And so, again, those could come back to get you if you care at all. Maybe I would personally think, well, if that's how they feel, I don't want to work there. But it still just makes sense and maybe not necessarily to go that way. And let me just also say, I think, Facebook is for friends and family. Twitter is timely. It's what's happening in the hot second. And LinkedIn is your professional life. So if you can look at those three and figure out, okay, well, I'm going to put, the fun stuff, the family stuff on Facebook, which, owns Instagram. So by default, those two are the same. Twitter is where people are just tweeting comments back and forth, and LinkedIn's where your career stuff is. So think of it that way and post the content that you want to post on the appropriate channel. And I think you'll be fine.
Excellent. Thank you. Two more questions for today. Okay, so let's fast forward, JT, and say that all of this fantastic advice that you've been offering, all this coaching and mentorship that you've been providing has led to me getting that job that I really wanted. But JT, I'm terrible when it comes to asserting myself for the salary component. Can you share any tips to negotiate the salary?
Absolutely. So first of all, congratulations if you got the job. You should remember that they chose you. So they don't want their second pick now, they want their first pick. So you sit in the driver's seat and this is your chance to negotiate. Secondly, this isn't a combative situation. Your partners, they want you to be happy and you want them to be happy. So go into it thinking very positively that you can come to a win-win situation. And then third, I tell people you're going to create a list with two columns. Column number one is everything that was listed on the job description that they needed you to do the job. And then what you're going to do is fill in right next to it how you meet or exceed that. And then the second column is going to be all the additional skills that you're going to bring that will save or make that company money in the role. And I want you to look at that, because if you meet all the criteria and you exceed it, plus you have all this additional skill sets, that's what you can quantify and say, hey, I am so excited about this opportunity. Thank you so much. I cannot wait to work at the company. So let's start with that. So now they know, hey, I'm taking the job. That being said, this is a hard conversation for me to have, but I was really looking to make X. So you politely say, this isn't easy for me to negotiate, but I'm looking for this number. And you need to give a number because, if you're asking for more money, then ask how much. And the reason that I'd like to make that money is because I feel that I'm going to be able to contribute and get you that return on the investment. As you can see here, you were looking for all these skill sets. I not only meet them, I exceed them, but I'm also going to bring these additional skill sets, which are going to save you and make you money here, here, and here. Right? So when you talk that, you're talking value, you're giving them the financial reasons to give you the job. And then finally, you're going to say, for those reasons, I really hope that you can see your way to be able to pay me more. I would be very grateful. And I promise you, it'll be the best decision you ever made. I will make sure I hit the ground running and get you that return on that investment. So they need to hear that if they give you this, you are really going to go to bat based on that. And then you sit back and you see what they say. The worst they can say is no, in which case you could go back and maybe negotiate more time off or something else. But it puts them on notice if they do say no, that, wow, we are going to have to find a way to get this person's income level up. They are on a track to want to earn more money. So that's another reason to do it. They may come back and give you what you need or close to it. And you can always say to them, that's great. If they can't meet your number, well, how long can it be before we discuss this again? Do we have to wait a full year for my, annual review, or could we revisit this in 6 months when you see my performance? So you can always say that too, just to make sure that you're not now waiting around for a year to get some kind of raise. And, it's all done positively, politely. They hear the tone in your voice. And when I coach people to do this, they're always so nervous. And then I get the call afterwards, JT, you wouldn't believe it. They gave me what I wanted. They gave me extra. Again, it's a win-win. They want you to be happy. If you present it in that manner, you should be fine.
Perfect. Thank you. And just finally for today, JT, how can our listeners learn more about you, connect with you? So maybe LinkedIn, for example. How can they learn more about Work It Daily? And how can they get a copy of your latest book, which I believe is called Awakening Your Inner Workplace Renegade, 7 New Rules for Transforming Your Career and Finding Your Professional Purpose?
Oh, thank you for saying that. So, the easiest thing to do is to go over to Work It Daily and join our free community. All you need is an email address. It's private. You will absolutely love it. When you get inside, that's where you're going to see the 3 C's, courses, coaching, and community. And we've got all of that for free in there to get you started and just help you start to figure out what you want to do with your career and how to get happier. And of course, I'm inside there, but I'm also on LinkedIn, and I welcome everyone to connect with me there. Just send me a connection request and personalize the message and tell me, hey, you heard me on the show, so that I know that's where you came from, and I'll be sure to connect with you as well. And yes, the book came out of the pandemic. It's a 51-page manifesto for the workplace evolution. I'm teaching people to become workplace renegades by showing them the 7 new rules. And in the book, I give you stories of people I've worked with through the pandemic. So it's very recent and can help you get motivated. It's not going to solve all your problems, but it's absolutely going to get you in the right frame of mind to move forward. And then, you can read it, join our free community, and we can go from there.
Perfect. Well, man, I had so many more questions I wanted to ask of you today.
I'm sorry. I talked too much.
No. This was fantastic. I just wish we had longer. But I'll definitely have to get you back on the show again, JT. But for today, that just leads me to say thank you so much for being my guest on this episode of the HR Chat Show. And listeners, as always, until next time, happy working.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the HR Chat podcast. There are hundreds of conversations with business experts available for free on the HR Gazette website, Apple, Spotify, and all the main platforms. And remember to like, subscribe, and follow us on social media.